Okay, today we're going to look at creating placeholder classes for wireframing. I've also spoken with Maxime at Advanced SEMA, and we're going to include this as standard in 80 framework. Maybe the next release, I'm not sure exactly yet, but we'll include them in there because it's a really useful tool for just doing really quick mock-ups when you're not sure exactly what video, image, whatever you're going to have. So let's go through and create these. First thing we'll do is just add a section, and in that section I'm going to add a block. On that block I'm going to add a class. I'm going to call it placeholder. And this will be our default placeholder. Okay, so I've got a class called placeholder. Now in this video I am going to style at the CSS level, not using the UI, because that's how I normally work for reusable code. If you're scared of CSS, then back out now. If you're open, then watch and learn. Okay, so we're going to use the 80s superpowered CSS. If you haven't got that, you have to do everything manually. So I'm just going to use a capital R and press tab, and that gives me a root block. So first thing I'm going to do is set my background color. And we're going to set that to be a neutral with transparency. So my neutral, I'm going to use a transparency of 5. We're then going to add a border of 2 pixels, dashed, and we're going to use a neutral again, but this time we'll use a transparency of 4, so it's just a little bit more opaque than the background. Alright, so we can see that if I click away from that, you can see we got a dashed background of 2 pixels on top of a lighter background. Now if I go to my section here and go to my colors, background here, and I change the background color, you can see the neutral sitting on top of it, and it's no matter whether it's a light or a dark, we can still see our placeholder because we've used a neutral transparency. Neutral, we set our neutral's lightness at 50%. And then we put transparency on that, so it doesn't matter whether it's on a dark or a light, we can still see the neutral with the transparency through it. So that's the reason we do that. Okay, heading back to our placeholder. So we have a border. Let's put some radius on it. Put a radius of, I don't know, we'll use our radius small. Again, these are AT framework or ATF variables. If you don't have ATF, just use fixed values. Type in your own, as long as you've got transparency on those values, just type them in. You're not fixed to using ATF. This is just a simple way of doing it for ATF users. Okay, we're going to add some, I'm going to put a label in here, so I'm going to add some padding in there. And we'll use a space of S for that, for our padding. Again, use fixed values if you don't have ATF. Or you're using a different framework, use their values. Okay, now, what else do we need for our board? Oh, we need to set the display to flex, because this may not be on a block. You might put it on a div or something else that's not flex. So we're going to set the display to flex. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to add another, it's going to be just a lowercase r and tab, and that gives us the root without wrapping the curly brackets in the block, so we can just continue on from there. So what I'm going to do is set a before pseudo element, and I'm just going to set the content for now to be just I don't know, a greater than symbol, so we can see what happened there. Excuse the planes flying over in this wonderful environment. Okay, so we can see we've got a before, we've got our little greater than character as a before pseudo element. Now we want to position that. So I'm going to use, because we've got a display of flex, I'm going to use align items. And we're going to align the items to the center. And that will align it along the horizontal axis. Now flex gets really confusing because this is a by default it is a flex column. you don't align items vertically, you justify content. It gets really confusing. Sometimes you've got to use align items, justify content, align content. Play with them to figure out which one's actually applying. So anyway, I happen to know with this it's justify content, and the justify content we're going to set to the center. Okay, and that's put our greater than symbol, which is our before pseudo element, horizontally and vertically in the center. Now what we'll do is set some sort of default for that. So I'm going to use an SVG, and I'm going to head over to my favorite icons, which is HugeIcons. There are free ones. You do need an account if you want anything decent. On here, in icons, I think I'm logged in. I like using the duotone ones here. The duotones, what they do is that the color is actually black, but where it looks grey, they're actually just setting the opacity on that to, I think it's 0.5% or something like that. So it's pretty cool. So let's say our default, we're just going to look for image. Got an image icon there, pick one. Maybe I'll pick this one here. And then we go to the bottom and we can see a copy. So I'm going to copy that to the clipboard. I'm going to go to another tool that I use. I think that's in my resources here. It is. And it's this svgbackgrounds.com/tools/svg2css. It's the simplest one I've found because a lot of them you have to load the file. This one you just paste it into this box here, and there's your data URL that we need for CSS backgrounds, etc. Now what you do want to do is you want to delete the width and height because we want it to be responsive. There's a view box that's already set, and that's all we need for responsiveness. If we leave the width and height in and we scale the SVG, the icon will not scale. So let's get rid of that width and height, and then we're going to copy. Sorry, I'm just going to get my little loom bar out of the way that you guys can't see. We're going to copy that to the clipboard, head back over to our test builder here, and instead of that content being that greater than symbol, we're going to paste in that SVG. Now it's disappeared because we have no width and no height. So I'm going to set the width to be 2 rem. Okay, and it's come back. I'm going to set the height to be 2 rem. I'm going to come back and play with these a little bit later because we want to make these so that you can easily override them and create your own variations on them. So we're going to come back and do that very shortly. So there's our first placeholder, right? Now, what about labels? What about labels? I want to put a label on that, so I'm going to add some copy in there. I'm just going to add a placeholder __ label. So this placeholder label is a element of our placeholder. Sorry, I should have muted my phone there. I'm just going to mute that now. Okay, so we've got a label there. I'm just going to put in my placeholder label. Okay, there's my placeholder label there. Now, this is up to you how you work. I tend to try and style everything at the block level of BEM, not at the element level, so I know where all of my CSS is. So I'm going to come back to my placeholder here, and on my placeholder, I'm going to go down to the bottom after that SVG, and I'm going to do R tab __ label, and I'm going to style it from here rather than clicking on the label there and then changing the CSS there. Just keeps all your CSS clean in one place. So on here, I'm going to set my line height. I usually use 1.1, so it gives a little bit of line height, but not enough to affect your padding spacing. And we're going to do a Maxime, this is going to drive me mad. Okay. All right, now we're going to put a bit of padding on it. I'd say just say 5 pixels. We're going to put some background on it, background color. Where's my color? There it is there. And we're going to use a neutral transparency again. And this time we'll use a neutral T3. Okay, and then we're going to set the color to be, make just white. That'll do for now. So we've got a placeholder label there. All we have to do is add a text box, add the class to it, and away we go. All right, so that is done. Now, that is a single placeholder. What we now need to do is create variations of this for additional usage. So I'm going to go back to my placeholder, back to the CSS, and what are we going to do here? Oh, we need to put some opacity on that. We're going to drop the opacity. Opacity, maybe 0.5. There we go. So it looks more like an icon for a placeholder. All right, now, I want this to be something that we can easily create multiple variations of. And the best way that I know to do that is by creating a locally scoped variable. So I'm going to do another root block, so capital R, tab, give myself a root block there. And I'm going to copy all of these paddings, etc. Copy all of those over to here, and I'm going to put a dash dash underscore dash dash underscore dash dash underscore dash dash underscore. You don't need the underscore. I like using it to say this is a local scope variable. This is only for here. I don't want it to be from above. I want it to be from this point to apply to this set of elements. Because with cascading CSS, so CSS cascades down, the variables cascade down the DOM, and it can get really confusing as to where are these actually set. So yeah. Anyway, so what I'm going to do now is change all of these to use variables. So change that to use the variable, and nothing changes because we are reusing the same values just as variables. Okay, done. So we're back to having that working. Now, what else do we want to do here? We want to set a minimum height for our placeholder. So I'm going to do a min height of, I don't know, 90 px. Okay, we're then going to grab that, copy that, come up here, dash dash underscore, copy that, and use our min height from there. Now we've got things that we can actually override, right? Now our width and height and opacity, we want to grab those. And we're going to actually make these a little bit different. We're going to go dash dash underscore icon dash. So making this as reusable as we possibly can. So we only need, actually we don't need both. We're going to call this icon size because they're both the same. Back here. Once we've done all this hard work, you'll see how easy it is to create the rest of them. And what do we got here? Opacity. Okay. Now our SVG. So we're going to also do our icon SVG, and this I leave this to last because this takes up so much space. Icon SVG. I'm going to grab all of this from the URL down to there, cut that, we're going to paste that up here, and then down in the bottom here we're going to set that to be our var of icon SVG. Okay, so we're back to pretty much where we started, but we've turned everything into variables. Now the next step I would normally do, we could also do the same with the label if we wanted to. I'm just going to leave it at that just because the label is easy enough to do. Now the next thing we'll do is turn these into something that we can easily override using other variables. So my typical go-to that is I'm going to grab the name here, and I'm going to use that as our fallback. So I'm going to do var. In fact, I might actually just make this full screen here so it's easier to see, which we can do if you've got AT. So we're going to call that background color. I'm going to make that var dash dash background color, comma. What we've just done now is we've said our background color is going to be this background color if it is defined, or it's going to default to that. Simple, right? Very, very simple way of setting a default. And that's why we use the underscore here. One of the reasons we use the underscore is that these can't be the same. If we want a fallback, we need to have a different name here. Instead of coming out with different names, we just stick an underscore under there. That tells me it's a locally scoped variable. This can come from above, or it can even become from the same element level as an override to set this value. If that doesn't exist, then use that as the backup. So we're going to do the same for our border. Oops, missed a dash. Okay, we're going to do the same for our border radius. Same for our padding. And then the same for our min heights. All right, once we start making our modifiers and variations, you'll see how powerful this is. Some users might look at this and go, oh, that's just overcomplicating things, but it's undercomplicating things when you see how you can easily create variations and add new variations as you go. Almost there. And we need another closing bracket at the end of that. Now, if I haven't messed it up, it should look the same. It does. It looks exactly the same as it did before. I'm going to hit the save on that so we don't lose anything here. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add duplicate that. I'm going to add some sizes. I'm going to add some sizes of the actual placeholder. So I'm going to do a placeholder L, placeholder large. Okay, what's our placeholder large going to do? It's going to get our minimum height. So it's going to use our minimum height here. And all we have to do on that class there, is do a R tab, minimum height. Oops, why did we not get that? Copied. Of 200 px. Okay, and we did not apply. Why did not we apply? So placeholder, min height, typo, Okay, min height of 200 px. Now we've got a placeholder L, which is a minimum height of 200 pixels. Let's get rid of that and do a placeholder XL. XL. And on that one, we are going to root block, min height of 350 px. Okay, you can make these whatever you want. So it's our minimum heights there for. So we now got three different versions. We've got a 90 pixel standard, 250 pixel L, and a 350 pixel XL placeholder size. Okay, now let's have a look at our size of our icons. So here's our icons there. Let's have a look at our icon size. We have an icon size variable to override. Okay, so default, my copy is doing weird things here. I'm just going to try this again. Oh, it's just disappearing on me. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on here. There we go. Some weird things happening in this editor here. Copy that to clipboard. I should have got the 2 dashes actually. Okay, now what are we going to do? A placeholder dash dash icon icon dash icon can't do two. We can't have two modifiers, so we're going to call this icon L. And this is AT 3.2 beta. We've got a couple of weird things happening here. You notice when I created this class here, it's still showing me the old class there. So I've just got to click on that class, click on this one, and then I've got my empty class. Excuse the aeroplanes. So I'm going to do capital R tab, icon size, we'll make that 4 rem. Okay, so now we've got a large icon size happening there. Now we're going to make a icon XL. So placeholder dash dash icon XL. And if we look at the CSS for that, we do a capital R tab, paste that there, and we're going to make that say 6 rem. Okay, so that's pretty much how you create your overrides. Now we've got minimum heights, so we've got placeholder L, placeholder XL for the minimum height of our placeholder. We've got icon standard size, which is 2 rem. We've got the icon XL, which is 6 rem, and we've got the icon L, which is 4 rem. So we just created a bunch of modifiers there. All right, now let's look at the actual icons themselves. So head back over to here, and let's say we want a video placeholder. Okay, again, I'm using the duotones. Ooh, why is that not showing? Video. Surely it's got some video icons. What's happening here? Media. There was video, there you go. There's a search engine issue happening here with this. So we've got video. I'm just going to grab this first one here. Grab that, copy to the clipboard, come back over to my converter, delete everything that's there, paste it in there, get rid of our width and height. Okay, now we have a video icon. So let's create a new class. So we're going to get rid of, actually might as well just leave that XL there for now. Let's create a placeholder video. All right, and our placeholder, yeah, this is not switching properly. So we've got a icon SVG, sorry, there's our override there, icon SVG, copy that, come over to our placeholder video, capital R, tab, paste that there, put a colon in there, come over to our converter here, grab that, copy the clipboard, and paste that in there. Well, look at that, we now have a video placeholder. What else might we like? Let's say we want a list. Yeah, that'll do, copy that one. Now we're going to go to here, we're going to get rid of the video and create a placeholder. Placeholder list. R tab, and it was dash dash SV. Was it icon SVG? I think it was. Okay, and we're going to come over to our SVG converter, paste that into there, get rid of our. So not copy to the clipboard. Okay, come back here, copy to the clipboard, back to here, delete everything that's there, paste, get rid of our width and height. Oh dear, what's my mouse doing? Okay, copy to the clipboard, over here, paste that in there, and we've got a list icon. Alright, so let's just see this in practice now. So what have we got here? So I'm going to delete everything. So I'm going to say I'm going to create a layout here. Maybe I'll do a hero, and in that hero I have a container. I'll put a box in there, call it our grid. I'm not going to do the classes for this. I'm just going to do this at ID level, just so we got something to show you. So in this grid, I'm going to make that a grid of grid, and I'm going to make that a grid of 2. And on the left-hand side, I'm going to chuck in blah, 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 blah. On the right-hand side, I don't have anything yet. I don't know what I'm going to put in there yet. I know it's going to be a video. So I just go placeholder. Here's my placeholder. Because it's a grid, it fills the entire space. And I want that to be a video. It's a placeholder video. And I want that to be a little bit larger. So I'm going to go placeholder. Maybe we'll do placeholder XL, icon XL, make our icon a bit bigger. How simple is that? Okay, now for some reason we've lost our border radius, sorry. Let's have a look at what I've messed up here. Let's go full screen. Where's our border? Our border. Border. I messed up there by not getting rid of the other garbage at the beginning of it. Now it should be right. So we've got proper placeholders there. Let's grab another one. We want this to be another section. We're going to stick a title in that section. We're going to put a, I don't know, what are we going to put in here? Maybe it's a grid of people. So we'll call it people. And in that grid, we're going to set that to be a grid. And maybe it's a grid of 3. So we get a grid of 3. We've got a person. And we're not quite sure what we're going to do with this person yet. We haven't got a person icon yet, have we? So we're going to go back to our placeholders. I'm going to add our placeholder there. I'm going to set it to placeholder. We'll make this an XL so it's nice and tall, so it kind of looks like a person. You might even make a square version of this if you wanted to. It's up to you. We're going to then make our person icon a little bit bigger. So we're going to go person, placeholder icon XL. We don't have a person one, so we're going to grab our. We're going to create a new class here. We're going to call this placeholder -- person. Okay. going to go into our placeholder person, r dash dash svg icon, HugeIcons, I think they call them user on here. There we go, grab a person, maybe we like this curved one here, grab the SVG, head over to our converter here, paste it in there, get rid of our width and height, copy our CSS output to the clipboard, and paste that in there. Okay, and we don't have a, what have I messed up here? Love messing up. So it's icon SVG, not SVG icon. There you go. Got to get used to my own naming. Okay, so now we have a person. So what do we do there? We duplicate that a couple times, and we've got our staff. You know, it's a no-brainer for me. It's like you can create whatever you want as placeholders. You've got a simple one here for a video. You've got a simple one here for your people, for your staff. You can create one for lists. You can create one for resumes or reviews. You decide just by grabbing the icons you want, converting them into a CSS data image using a tool like this, get rid of the width and height, and add a variation over here. Just by simply going into the variation there and setting your icon SVG to be that icon that you've just grabbed from HugeIcons or whatever icon builder you use, and then converting it here. So that is placeholders. I think it's a really cool way of doing it. I'll go through and make a bunch of these, make them available to ATF so Maxime can include that in a version. But I like the idea of just having a simple approach like this. That works for me. Hopefully it works for you. I'll leave it at that.